On Christmas Eve, a billionaire single dad discovers one incredible word from a homeless woman that changes everything. Jack Thompson rushed through the bustling streets of downtown Chicago, the bright lights of the season forming a dazzling backdrop against the cold night sky. His heart raced not from excitement, but from an acute sense of urgency. Christmas was just hours away, and he still hadn't bought a single gift for his two children, Emma and Ben. Despite his immense fortune, an oppressive loneliness clung to him like the sharp winter wind. As he navigated the crowds, laughter echoed around him, and families gathered, wrapped in embrace and holiday spirit. Yet Jack felt like a ghost, invisible amid the joy. He was convinced that expensive presents could fill the emotional void that had grown between him and his kids. But what he didn't realize was that in trying to shower them with luxuries, he was missing what they truly craved. He hurried past a group of merry carolers, their voices harmonizing in rich tones. The warm glow of a cafe spilled into the street like a promise of togetherness, but Jack merely tightened his grip on his designer bag filled with gift cards and gadgets. His vision was clouded by acquisition, as he raced from store to store, oblivious to the beauty of the season around him. That's when he saw her. Mary was bundled in tattered layers, seated on a worn-out blanket at the corner of a storefront. She looked up at him, her eyes sharp and penetrating. Jack almost turned away, dismissing her presence like an unsightly smudge on his perfectly polished world. Yet as he passed, she spoke softly, "Hope." The word drifted from her lips, lingering in the air like a snowflake caught in the wind. Skepticism gripped him. What could a homeless woman know about hope? Still, something about her demeanor stirred an emotion he hadn't felt in a long time. His gaze turned inward, the longing in Emma's and Ben's eyes playing on repeat in his mind. Could hope replace the hollow gifts he was planning to buy? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A bleak realization washed over him. Despite his monumental wealth, a financial downturn was looming over his empire, threatening to unravel everything. While he organized lavish holiday parties to showcase his success, an ache pierced his heart as he sensed the emptiness that mirrored his own in the eyes of his children. They needed his presence, not his presence. Returning to Mary, Jack felt an unfamiliar sensation tightening his chest. "What did you mean by hope?" he asked, his voice cracking with vulnerability. A quiet understanding passed between them, and he sensed her resilience, the spark of survival emanating from her. As Mary's gaze met his, Jack was left standing on the precipice of a revelation. Maybe hope wasn't something to own, but something to give. Suddenly, the glittering parties and extravagant gifts felt impossibly hollow in comparison to the warmth of connection and the strength found in vulnerability. As the clock ticked toward midnight, Jack stood at a crossroads, his heart pounding with questions about redemption and family. Would he finally let the meaning of hope seep into the fabric of his life, or would he continue down the path of isolation? The city around him sparkled and thrived, yet within him, a storm raged, whispering of possibilities and the power of human connection. Jack took a step back, the cold air biting at his skin but not nearly as keenly as the realization piercing through his thoughts. He had everything: money, status, cars, a sprawling home, but his life felt as unfurnished as the empty space beside him. The word hope lingered in the icy air, heavy with unspoken meaning. What if hope isn't just a word, but an action? He mused, the thought igniting a flicker of determination in his chest. Instinctively, he reached into his bag, feeling the weight of the items inside. Gift cards, gadgets. Were those really what Emma and Ben wanted? Or were they just a distraction from the truth: his absence? "Mary," he said, lowering himself to her level, suddenly aware how high the golden towers around him felt. "What can I do for you? What do you need?" Her expression softened, and for a moment, the hustle around them faded into silence, as if the world had carved out a small sanctuary just for the two of them. "It's not about what I need, but about what we can share," she replied, her voice steady with an undercurrent of wisdom. In that instant, Jack realized how out of touch he had become with the rhythm of life beyond his luxurious bubble. He watched as Mary brought a hand to her heart, her fingers trembling slightly, and it struck him that her spirit radiated more warmth than glimmering jewels ever could. "Share?" he repeated, a question and a revelation intertwining. "You just showed me two things I needed to hear: hope and sharing." "Exactly," she smiled, eyes bright. "Maybe you're here for a reason. Maybe you keep freezing in your own world thinking it's enough, but true warmth comes from others." He knew what was coming next. He wanted to reassure her that he would help, that he would make a difference, but wasn't it profound that at this moment, she was perhaps helping him more? Taking a deep breath, Jack stood up, feeling the chill of the night as an invigorating challenge. "What if I gathered some friends, people who can actually help, and we make a difference together? A place where people, like you, have the chance to find hope and connection?" Mary nodded slightly, her smile widening. "That's stepping into hope, but don't forget, you're also searching for it. Think about how you can show your kids what hope really looks like, not just what it feels like in words." As he mulled over her words, the reality hit him: he had been so focused on presenting a perfect life to Emma and Ben that he forgot to show them the essence of compassion. With every minute ticking down toward midnight, he felt hope thawing the ice around his heart. "My children," he whispered, thinking of Ben's radiant smile and Emma's infectious laughter. They were at home waiting for him, and what if he showed them the true spirit of Christmas, not through gifts, but through sharing and kindness? Before he parted ways with Mary, he felt an urgency to act. "I'm going to fill this night with hope, with chances for others." Jack turned away, heart racing not just with the cold, but with purpose. Each step toward the busy city reminded him of what truly mattered: connections, family, and the acts of kindness that could spark the same hope that had ignited in him only moments earlier. But as he hurried back towards his car, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his journey than he knew. What if those moments of sharing didn't lead him only back to his children, but inside himself, to the kind of man he longed to be? The air crackled with energy, and as he slid into the driver's seat, the city's lights danced around him like a warm embrace. This Christmas Eve would be different. But little did he know, a twist awaited him that would transform not just his holiday but his entire life. Would he be ready for what came next? Jack's heart pounded with renewed vigor as he navigated through the bustling streets. Each light from the shops felt like a beacon, reminding him that he was part of something bigger, something alive. As the chill wind howled at his windows, he turned the heater up, but deep down, it wasn't the warmth of the car he wanted. It was the warmth of connection that flickered like the Christmas lights strung across the storefronts. The thought of Emma and Ben brought a smile to his face. What would they think if he brought them with him tonight? The idea surged within him, a sweet rush of inspiration. This was more than just a night out, this was an opportunity to teach them valuable lessons about giving, sharing, and the true meaning of Christmas. He could already envision Ben's spirited laughter and Emma's curious eyes as they explored the city's heart, just as it pulsed with life around them. He parked near the center of town, jumped out, and was hit by the intoxicating aroma of hot cocoa mingling with roasted chestnuts. It felt like a winter wonderland overlaid with a sturdy layer of reality. As he strolled down the street, he kept his gaze peering into the faces of those bustling about. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a small gathering around a wooden stall. It was a charity event, complete with volunteers handing out food and warm clothes. That familiar flicker of excitement caught him off guard. He stepped closer, observing people who were laughing and chatting, sharing stories over steaming cups of soup. The volunteers had glowing smiles on their faces, evidence of their fulfillment from giving. Jack's heart swelled at the sight. It was beautiful. He approached a woman, her hands busy wrapping socks and gloves in bright paper. "What can I do to help?" he blurted out, surprising even himself. The moment felt spontaneous, as if a part of him was awakening that had been dormant too long. "Oh, we could always use more hands," she said, enthusiasm shining in her eyes. "Just passing out these goods would be a huge help." He joined in, folding paper and distributing items with surprising ease. For the first time in a long while, laughter bubbled from his lips as he engaged with others, sharing stories and warmth. Each time he handed something out, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders, revealing the true spirit of the season. Time slipped by, and soon he realized he'd been gone longer than expected. He checked his watch and felt a pang of urgency. "I should go get Emma and Ben and bring them here," he thought. They needed to experience this, feel the gratitude, witness the joy of giving back. It wouldn't just be charity, it would be a lesson in humanity. As he turned to leave, he caught sight of Mary's familiar face in the distance, her eyes shimmering with kindness. She approached him, her demeanor calm yet charged with life. "You found hope," she said simply. Jack grinned, feeling more alive than he had in years. "I need to share this with my children. I want them to feel this, too." Suddenly, a crack of laughter broke from behind him. He turned to see a group of children playing in the snow, their joy infectious. The moment felt so perfect, so quintessentially Christmas that he wanted to capture it forever in his memory, but as he took a step, the laughter turned to a startled squeal, and Jack's breath caught in his throat. One of the children had slipped, falling into a pile of snow, but the moment didn't feel tragic. He rushed toward them, ready to help. However, in the swift movement of the day's unexpected adventure, would this stumble lead to a profound lesson for him, or a path he wasn't prepared for? As he reached the child, Jack felt the unmistakable warmth of the season colliding with the doubtful chill of what lay ahead. Would he be able to embrace this transformative night, or was he about to uncover something deeper, something that would shake the very foundation of who he thought he was? With a grin and determination, he extended his hand into the soft snow, but just as he did, something inside him stirred, a whisper of doubt and hope intermingling. What awaited him around the corner? Jack knelt in the snow, reaching out to the child who had tumbled. The little girl looked up at him with wide eyes, surprised but unharmed. A quick assessment danced in Jack's mind, she was just shaken. As he helped her to her feet, her eyes sparkled with mischief, recognizing that even a fall could be turned into laughter. "You okay?" he asked gently while brushing snow off her coat. She nodded, her cheeks flushed pink against the winter chill. Laughter bubbled in her throat, and soon they were both giggling, sharing in a moment that felt light and warm against the cold. Just then, a faint voice called from behind them. "Annie, sweetheart. Come over here." A woman rushed towards them, her face a mix of worry and relief. Jack recognized her as a mother who was also part of the charity event. He had seen her earlier, passing out blankets. "Sorry about that," the woman exclaimed as she reached her daughter. "She has a knack for finding trouble. No harm done. Just a little slip." Jack reassured, smiling at the child who had already returned to her friends, her spirit unbroken. The mother looked at him, curiosity in her eyes. "Thank you for helping her." "Thank you for what you do here," he said, gesturing to the charity stall across the street. "It truly makes a difference." It was the kind of exchange that felt like more than simple gratitude. It felt like a shared mission, a connection that ignited his desire to be part of this community. As the scene unfolded, he spotted Mary approaching again, her arms filled with knitted hats and gloves. "I was hoping I'd find you here," she announced, a bright smile lighting up her face. "You've already gotten involved. That's wonderful." "It's amazing what you can find when you open your heart," he replied, the experience shifting something within him. His eyes followed some kids tossing snowballs, laughter ringing out like music. "I wish I had known how long you'd be here before I left to fetch my own children," she said. "Would you like to join us as we deliver gifts? It's the most magical part of the evening." Jack felt a wave of excitement surge. "Absolutely. It's perfect timing." just thinking about how great it would be to have them see this. Thoughts of Emma and Ben flashed through his mind, filled with joy and buoyancy, like glittering ornaments hanging from a Christmas tree. With a newfound bounce in his step, Jack turned to say goodbye to the child he had just assisted. But to his surprise, she was now leading a line of her friends, determined to race down a snow-covered hill, her laughter an echoing reminder of resilience and joy. As he made his way to join Mary, he glanced back at the gathering. People were coming together over hot cocoa, and the warmth was palpable. Suddenly, Jack saw a woman sitting on a nearby bench, her clothes tattered and her face a canvas of hardship. She held a small sign that read, "All I need is one kind word." The stark contrast triggered something deep within him, and he felt a pull to approach her, the growing warmth in his chest battling the cold that enveloped them both. "Mary," he called, feeling an urgency rise. "Yes?" She turned, noticing the direction of his gaze. "Can we stop there, first?" he asked, his heart hammering at the idea of speaking with someone who felt so alone in a crowd that was celebrating together. It was as if the spirit of the season was whispering for him to reach out, to connect. Mary nodded, and together they walked toward the woman, each step drawing Jack closer to a moment that felt charged with unexplainable importance. Jack's heart raced. He wondered what words he could share, what warmth of connection he might offer the woman who seemed so detached from the joy around them. As he approached, the woman looked up, her eyes weary yet curious. Jack inhaled deeply, preparing to discover what lay ahead not just for her, but for himself as he confronted the depth of compassion and human connection. Could a simple word change everything? With every inch closer, he could feel his life about to shift in ways he couldn't yet understand. What revelation awaited them both as they met in this moment of shared humanity? Jack took a deep breath, feeling the cold air fill his lungs as he stepped closer to the woman on the bench. She was older, her skin weathered by both the chill and the trials of life. Despite her disheveled appearance, there was a grace about her, an unwavering spirit that radiated even in such a vulnerable state. "Hi," Jack said softly, crouching slightly to meet her gaze. "I saw your sign." She glanced at him, her eyes sharp and searching. "What do you want?" Her voice was steady, though tinged with exhaustion. I want to know how you're doing. It's a cold night." He felt a wave of sincerity wash over him, the genuine concern bubbling to the surface like warmth on a chilly day. The woman smiled faintly. "You're kind to ask. Most people just walk by." Her gaze flicked to the festivities, where laughter and joy bubbled over like a pot on the verge of boiling. "You have a good heart. But don't let it get too warm if you're planning to stay in this world." Jack hesitated, caught off guard. "What do you mean?" She nodded toward the crowd. "People forget. In their joy, they forget the others." Her eyes glimmered with a sadness that seemed to wrap around them both like the cold. "But a kind word? It can be the difference between day and night." Jack's heart sank. He understood her words deeply, echoing truths he had faced in his own life. He wanted to bridge the gap, to offer more than just a few words. "What's your name?" "Grace," she said, and it felt fitting. It was as though the name contained the very essence of hope, despite the despair clinging to her reality. "Hi Grace, I'm Jack." He felt the connection grow, rooted in something unshakable. "Can I offer you some warm food or a drink?" Her eyes softened, and for a moment, Jack caught a glimpse of the woman she might have been long ago, full of laughter and dreams. "Don't waste your kindness on me. Save it for someone who deserves it." "But I think you deserve it," he insisted, feeling an urgency to break through. "Everyone deserves kindness. That's how we keep moving forward." A silence settled between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. The air felt charged, almost electric. "You don't know the half of it, Jack," she replied, an edge of sadness creeping in again. "People think kindness is a currency, easy to spend but hard to earn back. But sometimes, it can feel meaningless. Like I'm just invisible. Jack shook his head, determined. You're not invisible to me. He paused, then added, what if we change that? What if we find a way to remind people that kindness matters? You know, with just one word? She raised an eyebrow, curiosity dancing in her eyes. And what word would that be? Hope, he said, feeling the weight of the word resonate between them. If we can remind people that there's hope, they might stop to see you. To see everyone. And it might change something. Grace considered that in silence, allowing the weight of his words to settle. You're an idealist, Jack, but maybe that's just what people need. Hope is a fragile thing. Not everyone is willing to hold it. I'm willing, he stated firmly, his voice steady. I've seen how powerful it can be, how it can light up even the darkest places. The corners of her mouth turned up in a tentative smile, and Jack felt something shift within him. Was it hope stirring to life? All right, say it then, she challenged. What's this hope of yours? Jack looked around, taking in the festive chaos that surrounded them, the laughter he had just left behind. Hope is the belief that no matter how cold it gets, we can find warmth together. In that moment, a spark ignited. Jack saw her eyes widen, reflecting the warmth of something they both yearned for. Maybe, just maybe, Grace whispered, you might be onto something. As they shared this fragile moment, the noise of the crowd faded away. It felt like they were wrapped in a cocoon of possibility. Jack felt a rush of energy coursing through him, knowing that their encounter could be just the beginning. Could they inspire others to care, to see the people they overlooked? Just as he considered the potential, a shout erupted. From the nearby crowd a child had slipped again, laughter mingling with commotion. Jack turned, heart racing with both excitement and uncertainty. Shall we? He asked, glancing back at Grace, who seemed lost in thought. Take me with you, she finally said, determination sharpening her features. As they got up, Jack realized he was stepping into a turning point. A revelation not just for Grace, but one that would ripple through his life. What would it take to reignite hope in those around them? And as they walked toward the laughter and warmth, Jack faced a question that loomed large. Could they really make a difference together? Will change everything. Jack led the way through the throngs of festive revelers, the warmth of the nearby bonfire flickering against their skin, contrasting the cold biting at their cheeks. His heart raced not out of fear, but from an inexplicable thrill that surged through him. He stole glances at Grace. Her weary eyes glimmered with something he hadn't seen before: hope. It was fragile, yet it sparked something deep within him. Why do you choose to be out here? He asked, trying to understand her world more fully. Do you have family or friends you could be with? Grace shook her head slowly. No one left, Jack. Life has a way of stripping away the people we love. Bit by bit, until one day, you're alone. Her tone was solemn, but Jack could see a flicker of defiance in her resolve. But I'm not just anybody. I still have stories to tell, memories to share, and dreams to light. As they arrived at the crowded square, Jack scanned the sea of smiling faces and families gathered around. The laughter seemed louder, the joy more tangible. He turned back to Grace, his voice steady. We can do something. Let us share your stories. Let people see you. Grace raised an eyebrow, skepticism lining her features. Like I said, Jack, most people don't care to stop and listen. They're wrapped up in their own lives. Maybe I can help change that, he countered, waving to a couple passing by. Hey! He called. They turned, startled but curious. This is Grace, and she has stories worth hearing. The couple looked at him with confusion, eyes darting back to Grace, who appeared bewildered. What are you doing? She whispered, fear edging into her voice. Just giving you a chance to speak, he replied, his heart pounding. Tell them one of your stories. Grace looked back at the couple, unsure. But as Jack took her hand, something shifted. A flicker of courage ignited in her chest. "All right," she said, her voice breaking slightly. Once, a long time ago, Jack watched as her memories unfolded, like petals of a flower opening to the sun. At first, the couple hesitated, their expressions unreadable. But he noticed their posture shift, the way they leaned in slightly, captivated. "I dreamed of dancing under the stars," Grace continued, a spark igniting in her eyes. "I loved to feel the music wrapping around me, like a warm blanket." Her voice rose with passion, and the surrounding crowd began to take note. Others turned, intrigued. Jack felt a rush of pride. She was coming to life in front of him. People began to gather, curiosity pulling them in closer. A few children sat at her feet, eyes wide, pulling in every word as if they hung upon her every breath. What if every story we share ignites something in someone else? Jack pondered aloud, more to himself than to the crowd, but he knew it was true. Grace's voice grew bolder, pulling the crowd in deeper. "It's easy to forget what it feels like to be hopeful. To dance and laugh. But we have to remember. We have to keep dancing, even when the music fades." As her words washed over them, Jack glimpsed the transformation in the faces around him. For just a moment, the laughter and merriment faded as everyone listened intently. Hope began to weave through the crowd like a beautiful melody, one that drowned out the chill of the night. Jack turned to Grace, his heart swelling. "You see? You have the ability to touch their hearts." But before she could respond, a commotion erupted at the edge of the gathering. A man, shouting and pushing through the crowd, was causing a scene. Jack's body tensed, eyes narrowing as he assessed the situation. "Stay close," he urged Grace as he moved toward the chaos, his protective instincts kicking in. "Let us figure this out." As he approached, he heard the unmistakable clash of anger and frustration. He opened his mouth to intervene, but he paused. The man's face looked eerily familiar. What if this was the past coming back to haunt him? What if his attempts to create hope today were about to face their biggest challenge yet? Jack felt a chill run down his spine as he prepared for what was to come. Would their new spark of hope withstand the storm that was about to hit? The man's voice rang out like thunder amidst the laughter. "Get away from her!" he shouted, his eyes wild with anger and desperation. Jack felt the urgency in his chest surge like a wave. As he drew closer, the familiar face struck him with a rush of recognition. "Alex!" Jack called, disbelief coloring his voice. This was no stranger, this was his old friend. Memories of carefree days flooded his mind. But that was a lifetime ago. The Alex he remembered was gone, replaced by someone consumed with bitterness and rage. "Jack?" Alex's expression swung from fury to confusion. "What are you doing here? This isn't your place." His eyes darted to Grace, who stood beside Jack, the light from the bonfire casting shadows across her face. "She's with me," Jack responded, his tone firm. "You need to cool off. This isn't the time or place." Alex shoved his hands into his pockets, breathing heavily, the tension in his body ready to snap. "You don't understand. They're taking everything from us." And her he pointed an accusatory finger at Grace, "She has no idea what it's like." Jack glanced at Grace, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and something else, recognition, maybe? The kind that comes when you realize pain echoes through all walks of life, crossing barriers of status and circumstance. "Alex," Jack said, stepping closer, keeping his voice low and steady. "Whatever you're feeling, this isn't the way. Let us talk." But Alex laughed, a harsh sound that echoed around the square. "Talk? And what will that do? You think a few nice words can change this?" He gestured at the surrounding crowd, where some were watching with curiosity while others slowly retreated, sensing the escalating conflict. Grace stepped forward, her voice soft yet resolute. "I know it's hard, but you can't let the anger take over. You have stories too. Let them out instead of lashing out. Jack felt the air shift around them. For a moment, it seemed like the whole world held its breath. Would this break Alex? Would he listen? Shut up. Alex shouted, but there was a hesitation in his eyes. Jack saw it, the flicker of pain. Please, Grace continued, her voice low but earnest. Let us help you. We all have our battles. But there's strength in sharing. Let us find that together. The crowd shifted again, intrigued, murmurs rising around them. Some nodded, leaning in closer. Jack could feel a collective hope, a burgeoning desire for connection spark in the frozen air. Alex's expression wavered. For a breath, Jack could see the weight of the past in his friend's eyes, nostalgia, loss, desperation battling with the harsh reality of loneliness. You don't understand. Alex faltered, but the ice in his heart seemed to thaw slightly under Grace's warm gaze. Help us remember, Grace urged, her voice gentle but powerful, remember what we've lost and how we can heal. Jack could almost see the walls crumbling, but they still stood, fragile and brittle. The noise faded into a hollow silence, tension wrapping around them like fog. Each breath felt heavy with unspooled emotions. Do you have a story, Alex? Jack asked quietly, hoping to shift the tide. We're here to listen. Just then, a child off to the side shouted with innocent clarity, I want to hear. What happened next could change everything. Would Alex, faced with this vulnerability, this chance to reconnect, accept their offer? Jack held his breath, waiting. He was on the brink of something powerful, a moment of connection that could either heal or deepen the wounds of the past. As the crowd waited in anticipation, he could only hope that the bond they once shared could still ignite a spark of humanity in Alex's heart. Would they reach him before it was too late? Alex's gaze darted away from Jack and Grace, scanning the crowd like a cornered animal. His fists clenched tighter, knuckles white against the backdrop of shifting expressions, inquiry mingling with pity among the onlookers. The child's plea hung in the air, a simple yet profound call for connection that felt heavy with expectation. I can't, Alex stammered, the veneer of bravado slipping. Each word dripped with despair like water from a worn-out faucet. The fight seemed to drain from his body, leaving behind confusion and hurt. Jack stepped forward, the urgency of the moment pushing him closer. You can, Alex. You can share. Let it out. We're not here to judge. We're here to listen. The murmurs from the crowd faded, swallowed by the weight of anticipation that settled over them. Alex remained frozen, the flicker of hope barely sparking in his eyes. Relief and fear danced in the silence, competing for dominance. Grace reached out, her hand gentle and open, inviting. What happened? She asked softly, the question like a tender nudge against his wall of resistance. We want to help you carry it. Alex squeezed his eyes shut tightly, fighting against the memories threatening to resurface. You don't know what it's like, he finally forced out, his voice cracking. You won't understand the anger. The betrayal. Everything we planned for, it all fell apart. As he spoke, a cascade of emotions flooded in loss, confusion, a heartache that felt both heavy and isolating. Jack saw the vulnerability spilling over, a darkness that threatened to overshadow the light surrounding them. And what about you? Alex retorted, his voice trembling. You left. You moved on. You live in your happy little world while I'm stuck here fighting for my life. The crowd shifted, a collective gasp echoing through the group as a few figures stepped back hesitantly. Yet, others moved closer in solidarity, representing the fragility of connection. Jack felt the tension tightening like a rope pulled taut, but recognized a hint of determination in Alex's voice. Does moving on mean forgetting? Grace interjected, her voice unwavering. What you experienced, that matters. Feel it, share it. Let us carry that burden with you. Alex's face twisted, caught between resentment and longing. The crowd was waiting, each person hoping for a bridge to form, a connection strong enough to overcome the years apart, the hurt that had festered. Jack shifted, feeling the heartbeat of the moment pulsing in the silence. You talked about losing everything. What did you lose, Alex? Can you show us? It might just set you free. In that vulnerable pause, something shifted. Alex turned his head slightly, and for once, the anger softened around the edges. An inner struggle unfolded across his features. Evelyn, he whispered, voice breaking like thin ice underfoot. I lost my daughter. I didn't protect her. She suddenly, a collective exhale seemed to echo through the crowd, the weight of Alex's admission wrapping around them like a warm embrace. Jack took a step back, allowing this moment to breathe, intertwining realization and heartache. With a deep, shaky inhale, Alex opened his mouth to share the weight of his story. But before he could unleash the flood of emotion, another voice emerged from the back of the crowd, sharp, accusative, echoing with the bitterness of the past. What a pathetic scene this is. Who do you think you're kidding, Alex? All eyes turned to the figure emerging from the shadows, the tension snapping like a tightened string. Would this adversary tear down the fragile bond being rebuilt? Or was this the pivotal moment where everything would change? Jack's heart raced. Would they weather the storm of the past? Would Alex stand tall, vulnerable among friends, or hide behind the walls of resentment once more? The answer was teetering in the balance, as the crowd held its breath, waiting for a shift. The figure stepped into the dim light, revealing a tall man with a face carved by years of hardship, his features shadowed by a brooding expression. It was Mark, someone Alex thought he had left behind long ago. The lost cause trying to play the hero? Mark scoffed, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Spare us the theatrics. You're not the victim here, shut up. Alex spat, the words emerging like a sharp blade from his bewildered heart. The crowd stirred uneasily, eyes flickering between the two men, sensing the chaos unfurling. They were caught in a moment that felt almost primal. Shutting me up won't change the truth, Mark shot back. You were always the one running away when things got tough. Jack sensed the line between understanding and conflict blurring dangerously. Let him speak, Mark, he urged. His voice was steady, trying to be a bridge in the storm. But Mark stepped closer, his eyes burning into Alex. What happened to your tough guy routine? You were supposed to be the protector. Guess what you saved? Nothing. Silence slammed into the crowd as Alex's expression wavered, casting shadows over the anguish etched deeply in his soul. The painful memories clawed back to the surface, and Alex found himself grappling with a vortex of emotions that left nothing untouched. Get out of here, Mark, Alex said, his voice trembling as if saying it louder would somehow drown out the truth. You don't know what it's like. I don't know. You think everyone doesn't know grief? Mark's voice reverberated through the crowd, fueling an already tense atmosphere. You're not alone in this. You lost her, yes, but you didn't lose everything, never. You had a chance to stop. Grace interjected, stepping up, her voice like a lighthouse cutting through the storm. Mark, what do you want? To pour salt into an open wound? The crowd hung in the balance, holding their breath as the bitter exchange widened, a rift they all sensed but couldn't see. But Mark wasn't finished. You all can coddle him, hold his hand. But look around. This place is filled with people who've lost something. What makes him so special? A wave of murmurs washed through the crowd, questioning, doubting, yet also searching for unity. Grace turned to Alex, her eyes pleading. You do matter, Alex. Every pain means something, and whether Mark accepts it or not, you have the right to share. As Mark's presence loomed, an unexpected clarity flickered in Alex's eyes. It was anger tangled with light, a blend he hadn't felt in too long. And maybe it wouldn't give him peace, but it could give him a voice. Evelyn was my daughter. I should have been there, Alex said slowly, intense emotion wrapped tightly around the words. I'll never stop losing her. And if you think I'm weak for standing here, you're wrong. The crowd felt the shift a collective courage ignited in each heartbeat, resonating with Alex's pain and strength. They were his people, grounding him in the storm, solid and unyielding. Mark seemed taken aback for a moment, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Then, with a cold smile, he retreated. Keep the pity party going, then. With that, his figure slipped back into the shadows, leaving behind a suffocating silence. The crowd shared uneasy glances, their collective trust in Alex coursing through the tension. Alex inhaled deeply, greeted by a silence filled with possibility. In that moment, he realized he was not just fighting against his past, he was on the brink of discovering who he could allow into his future. Jack smiled at him, encouraging a sense of unity that silently swept through the gathering. This is just the beginning, Alex. He turned back, looking at Grace and the faces hanging on every word, and took a step forward, determined. But just then, another voice broke through the lingering tension, soft yet confounding. Do you really think sharing your pain will change anything? This interruption sent another ripple through the crowd, and as all eyes turned toward the unexpected speaker, Alex felt the precariousness of his newfound courage teetering on the edge. Would this voice build him up or shatter what little ground he'd just reclaimed? The crowd turned towards the new voice, a tall woman with dark eyes that seemed to hold a universe of their own. It was a challenge, a barrage of skepticism that hung heavily in the air, adding to the chaos of emotions swirling around them. Jack felt a surge of protectiveness for Alex, who stood vulnerable, raw, exposed for the world to judge. Who are you? Alex asked sharply, his voice laden with weariness. The words came out a little defensive, but it was clear he was grappling with the tempest brewing inside. I'm someone who knows pain, she replied, her voice calm yet firm. Someone who has lost, just like you. But sharing it doesn't always lead to healing. Sometimes it just opens wounds that never truly heal. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, a mixture of empathy and confusion washing over them. What's your name? Grace asked, her voice steady as a lifebuoy, brimming with warmth aimed to anchor the growing turbulence. Lila, she responded softly, her gaze unwavering. I lost my brother 2 years ago. Sharing his story brings the pain back, opens old scars. Sometimes silence is easier than speaking. Fewer swords to cross. Jack watched the dynamic shift. The intimate language of grief laced with vulnerability thickened the air even further. He could feel Alex grappling with Lila's words, fighting against the inner demon that whispered devastation instead of hope. Pain exists, Alex finally spat, his voice rising. But so does the need for connection. I won't let my tragedy define me anymore. The intensity of Alex's conviction cast a ripple through the crowd, the kind that ignites a longing in others to grasp onto. Jack felt the movement of hearts softening, the flicker of something fragile yet undeniable merging between them all. Why are we all here, then? If not to share, to hold a mirror to one another's suffering? Jack urged, breaking through the thickening tension. If we deny our pain, we also deny our potential for healing. What if we share not just our stories, but also our hopes? Use what we've lost to understand our purpose? Stone-cold silence enveloped the crowd, eyes drenching in disbelief and contemplation. The beauty of the moment hung thick and electric as Alex turned to Jack, appreciation mixing with gratitude in his gaze. It was a pivotal moment. This was their chance to forge hope from what felt like ash. Your pain is validated, Lila, Grace said gently, but the storytelling is where healing begins. Every story connects us. We're not just here to dwell on loss, Jack added, his gaze spanning the crowd, one that had welcomed a multitude of stories, fears, and fragments of hurt. It's about creating new stories, woven with threads of hope. The words danced like embers between them. Hope from grief became the familiar fragrance of warmth in the freezing air that night. Together, we're more than just pain, we are resilience. Jack declared, every person present feeling the weight of his words resonate inside them. Then slowly, Lila echoed as if she too could see the unfolding possibility. Then let me share, she whispered, her head rising with determination. The deepest breaths filled her lungs as she began sharing not just the grief, but the moments of laughter, the light that once encircled her brother. And like a series of dominoes, every story took hold. There were tales of loss, joy, and the extraordinary strength that flickered within each heart. One by one, they spoke, their truths spilling into the winter air, their vulnerabilities breaking the chains that once held them captive. Tears flowed, laughter erupted, and every shared word became a bridge across the chasm of isolation. Jack looked at Alex, who stood shoulder to shoulder with Grace, their eyes brightening as a new dawning unfolded among them. Each person in the square embodied the essence of humanity, journeys intertwined, healing blossoming like wildflowers through cracks in concrete. Hope grows through sharing, Jack said, a grin spreading across his face as he felt that familiar warmth melting away the cold. It's contagious. Yes. Alex exclaimed, energizing the crowd. Hope is our story woven together, we can rise. In that shared moment, as each voice traced arcs of shared humanity, Jack finally felt the ghost of loneliness fade. It wasn't just about celebration, it was about connection. The vibrancy of those around him ignited a shift that Jack had yearned for, fostering a community built on love where stories intertwined with compassion. He felt assured smiles from Emma and Ben rise behind him as they approached, noticing the gathering as he wrapped them in a firm embrace. Amid laughter and the glow of hope, Jack turned to Grace, who stood beaming. Thank you for helping me see. I finally feel free. Together, we all shine brighter, she smiled back. As warmth bloomed around them, Jack knew this was just the beginning. They would fill their lives with stories, with connections, and with sharing hope every day and every moment. And as twinkling lights shimmered against the night, he glanced at his children's joyous faces, realizing he had unlocked a new chapter, and it felt monumental. Jack had discovered a powerful truth that night: hope wasn't just a word, it was an action, a shared mission. And he was ready to carry it forward. Now, it's your turn. Make a difference. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that might change your life. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and amplify these heartfelt messages. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear your stories. And most importantly, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation, because you understand the power of connection. Don't wait not even one more second to share this message with the world.